Welcome back to Watching Watchmen. We are now on the next to last episode.
Penultimate episode.
Yes. Yeah. So this episode was an emotional one.
Brilliant episode of television.
Yeah, it was very, very good. So I guess let's start off with last episode. We were kind of discussing what it was that she was holding, and it kind of discussed that.
And now we know what it is. So, I thought he might have been trapped in there, and then all of a sudden it shows this episode here where Ozymandias had made something for him to forget and blend in and be human for a while.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it also, it didn't really take away his powers, but it made it to where he couldn't really use them unless it was like necessary, like if it was like an accident, basically. And I was right last week whenever I was saying I felt like it was not like literally him, it was just like something that was causing it, which that was what it was. So so she beats his head open and pulls that out.
Yeah, time to wake up.
Tells him to walk it off.
So. Yeah.
But this episode was good because there was, I wouldn't call it a boring episode, even though most of it was a lot of backstory and
there's a lot of love story involved there.
Yeah, a lot of explaining what was going on with Dr. Manhattan and in the time since the first graphic novel, basically. Yeah. And we find out that he did, in fact, go not to Mars, but to Europa and
moon of Jupiter.
Yeah, which we had been talking about. It seemed like that's where he was at. Yeah. And we find out a little bit about his childhood and how that's kind of what he recreated there. So his
version of Adam and Eve, basically,
and Eve are his parents,
are the people who took him in. Who took him in. And he created his own utopia, basically, and what he thought would make him happy. Yeah. And in the end, it didn't. So he decided to come back, and he said, the unconditional love, and everybody all like worshiping him instead of just
liking
treating him as an equal. They look at him like a god, and he couldn't stand that.
It wasn't that us as people, if we were all good, we're not good as a people.
Well, I think it really touched a lot on religion, which was kind of interesting because if you think about it, like in like a lot of the faiths of the world, it all is based on free will. Like the gods, whoever you choose to be your god, Christian faiths, Muslims, whatever, their God, it's like, you commit sins and through whatever you choose to love them or to worship them, it has to be free will, right? And that's kind of, I think, what it touched on is if it wasn't free will, then it's meaningless. Yeah. There was no...
Yeah, they were designed
to be that way, so there was, no work to it, and basically, and so it wasn't as...
It was hollow. It was hollow for him, and that's why he left, and wanted to blend in and be a human, because... he's tired of being worshipped. He was tired of being the villain or the god, and he just wanted to be human for a while. So he figured out a way to do that.
Yeah, and it was also interesting because he's so omnipotent that that device, honestly, even whenever he comes out of it, he's a little disoriented because that period in time is totally black to him. So he knows what happens before it. He knows what happens after it. But that time,
it was almost like he was asleep.
Yeah. Which is, in a way, like he can remember it, but he couldn't see the future or the past during it. So,
what was it? The White Knight? Is that what they called it when all the police officers were murdered? It goes back and it shows now how how she survived, and whether it was reactionary or I'm assuming it was just kind of reactionary. Like he didn't know he was doing it, but when he just kind of got rid of everybody with the wave of a hand, I think it was. Like I said, reactionary. I don't think he knows he did it.
No, he didn't.
It's just he sensed danger and got rid of it.
And got rid of it. Yeah. He's like, no. Which I guess leads me to the part at the end, which we discussed a little bit, but it's like, the thing I don't understand at the end where she's like, no, you're not going to die. He's like, yeah, I am, and she's like, no, and he comes out because they're shooting her, and he saves her. And he's just like, everybody dies, if he saw that was going to happen, how he couldn't have stopped it, or
Well, I think what they're doing here is there is no past or future. It's only present for Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
Time is different for him. Like he sees everything all at once. He was talking to Angela's grandfather at one time before he had met anybody that she was asking about. Like there was a bunch of different factors going in here and timelines that he was a part of there, and so everything's happening all at once to him. So that's why he can't stop anything, basically.
Well, I think he sees enough of it too to realize that that's always going to be the outcome.
That's
if
what
he
has to
allows
happen.
Angela to go out there and maybe she dies, he still gets captured, still dies.
Yeah.
So maybe he does it this way, he saves her, and I mean...
And I'm assuming she's going to be a huge part of trying to take down, the presidential hopeful here next episode.
Well, and also it kind of touched a little bit more on True, where like who's the good guys, who's the bad guys? Are they all really kind of bad guys? I mean, I feel like True and the grandfather are a little bit more vindicated now, because it feels like the only reason he went after the police chief was because she initiated it.
Yep.
And and True, it seems like she legitly is trying to save the world from evil Dr. Manhattan. And if somebody else gets that power, she wants to, stop that.
Just like Vite before her, she wants to save the world here.
Yeah. It's just how she's
planning
on
how she's going
Vite's
about
not
it.
a good guy either,
Yeah.
which means she may not be a good girl.
Yeah.
I mean, she could end up in the end
Deep down, but if you're looking at
but,
both sides here, she's the good side.
She's the better of the best of the two
the
evils.
lesser of two evils.
And I will say this, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but whenever he's talking to Dr. Manhattan, when he tells him about the thing, he's like, I radiated it to keep it secret from you. And so he's like tachyons, you couldn't even see it. And it
He said he created a blind spot.
Yeah, so he knew a blind spot. He knows a way to hide stuff from Dr. Manhattan. And he brought up to him several times that he's like, that he was alone because there's not many people in his life. Riot brought up on several occasions, you listen to the way he worded it, there's not many people in his life. But it strongly, in my opinion, it really even more suggested that True is probably his daughter. Yeah, more likely than not, that is
I figure we're going to figure that out pretty early next episode.
Well, I think the biggest takeaway from this episode is every time we get an episode, we get a little bit of forward and a lot of backstory. And, we talked about like the grandfather episode. Seemed a little boring, but needed information. This episode really just tied everything up.
Yeah.
So you really know where everything is and where it's going, and the next episode is just...
Yeah, it laid the groundwork for next episode just being pretty much all-out war is what it looks like.
Yeah, just all what's going on now.
Yeah.
So which makes sense. And the graphic novel was kind of all over the place with all these little stories within stories. And then, towards the end of the graphic novel, you get the big reveal on what's happening.
Yep.
It's kind of the same thing here. I feel like the murder, like in this one, actually did get the whole thing started. I think that what came first, the chicken or the egg, whole idea of if she's the one that caused all this is a pretty interesting twist in the whole thing. But how it's all going to pan out now is just really, it just seems like it's everybody versus the 7th Cavalry at this point.
And whatever power they manage to accrue next episode.
Yeah.
So, other than that, I thought this was a really great episode for Vite. Also, you finally figure out, why he's on Europa. Made a deal with Manhattan. And, it sounded perfect for him, just like it did for Manhattan at the beginning. It's his idea of paradise. Yeah. Everybody worshiping him, and he's never wrong. And I guess he's figured out pretty quickly that that's not all it's cracked up to be either. So obviously he wants back now.
Well, he said it plainly too. It's like they don't need him there. If he was out of the picture, they're still going to be just them. Nothing changes with them because they're programmed not to be. And so he's like, I'm not needed, but on Earth they probly need me. And part of that's his.
He had a real God complex with that. They need me. 8 million people crying out for my return.
Yeah. He feels like the world must need him. He's been away for too long. Yeah.
Well, he's there in Antarctica. It showed you all the little squids falling there at the beginning of probably the first episode. It shows that he was behind that, kind of keeping everybody in check and scaring people to the point of where everybody still had to get along. So What's interesting is, I guess after he's gone, I don't know who took the mantle there, or if it's still happening. The
probably Redford, because he had talked to Redford about it. Obviously,
that's true.
That video.
I forgot about that.
I mean, who knows? Everyone does blame the government for it, so I mean, it could be.
Very well be the government.
Just hand it over to the government, and then he's going to go live his life up there and, be a god.
Yeah.
Just didn't turn out the way he wanted it to.
Now, I thought it was interesting, the little speech with the game warden, too, there at the end, the little kind of hidden scene after the credits where, it was interesting because he's like, how come we're not good enough, and basically he kind of lays it out for him why. And but I also found it interesting that at the cake, it dawns on him. He's like, they're smashing tomatoes in my face, they're doing all these things, but in the end, they're made to worship. They made to serve. What do I want? I want out.
So
and he looks at the
away.
cake, and he's like, they gave it. But he worked that out, and he was like, it's going to be in the cake.
That was pretty brilliant.
Yeah, it was pretty brilliant. Yeah. It's like, it's their nature. It's who they are. They can't not give him an escape.
Yeah, which is why he was how he was at the trial.
Yeah.
He just did not care.
No, at all. The defense
year into it.
Rests. Yeah.
That was just a formality to get where he wanted to be, basically. So.
But no, it was a good episode. It was a little more violent than some of the other episodes we've seen.
Wait till next one.
Yeah, wait till the next episode. But yeah, I thought it was really good. I mean, the whole love story with Dr. Manhattan. I will say I'm a little confused about where we go from here, because this looking like there's going to be another season.
Looking like?
Yeah.
So now it's not an episode, it's season 1.
Episode 1, or episode 9 or whatever. But yeah, so, I mean, what do you think, they go from here?
It's pulling in those ratings, man. And I don't know, depending on what they do here next episode, like, I think that it's probably going to be like an American Horror Story thing. I think we talked about that. Yeah. More of an anthology type of deal. I mean, there's so many different ways you can go in this universe, and so many different stories you can probably tell, past, present, future. And, it may take them 2 years to find a good story to tell again, but I have a feeling it'll be back.
Yeah.
Just ratings-wise, I think it's HBO's highest-rated show since Game of Thrones, I think is what I read. So
yeah, it's been killing it.
Yeah.
So, it looks like we got one episode left next Sunday.
Yeah.
The particle blaster got him, and he's there captive right now, along with Spectre, and that reunion's going to be interesting.
That's something I will say. I'm kind of wondering, the next episode, like, there's going to be a lot of action, but I'm also wondering about the drama about what happens with, if he's a prisoner at this point, they're planning on killing him and taking his power, but Spectre's there, and he obviously became human for this other girl, and she's not going to be
real happy about that.
All them hours spent in the phone booth.
Yeah.
For nothing.
Nothing, yeah. So
he was busy playing house. So.
Yeah, definitely going to be a little beef there, I think.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see what happens on Sunday. Until then, folks, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, all that fun stuff. Ring that bell. Tune in next week, and have a good day.